This is something that we've been very excited about at USB, our own TV show on CNBC Africa each week, where I get the privilege of interviewing some of the stars that you've seen here tonight, and also people like Robert Kiyosaki, author of the best-selling personal finance book of all time. We've had a whole range of top speakers, and this was really possible because of ABN. ABN is the parent company of CNBC Africa and Forbes magazine. So I'm going to be chatting to Alex Leibner, who heads up business, evening business at CNBC Africa. He's also an international moderator and speaker, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the unique relationship that ABN has with USB. So would you please give a warm welcome to Alex Leibner. So there's something else. He is going to kill me for this. If anybody can figure out the connection between Alex and I will give you 1,000 rand. I will really do that. The connection. I wonder if anybody knows the connection. It goes back. What's that? We did not go to school together. We are not cousins. Same Taylor. Okay. We haven't heard that one before. In fact, Alex and I can't believe I'm actually saying this. You know what I'm about to say.
I was going to bring up this.
Were you going to bring it up?
Go for it.
We were both KTV presenters.
There's an element in this room who's going, "What's KTV?"
Right. They're like, what's KTV? No. We've got a few of the older. Of the older generation. I'm trying to find a nice way to say older, but seasoned. Thank you. Like a fine wine. Mature generation. So that's where we cut out. That's our claim to fame. It's pretty much downhill from there. But we're here with you anyway. Alex, thank you for joining us in the hot seat.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, we are so excited. There's got to be a world first, a speaker bureau actually having a television show on the continent's number one business channel, CNBC Africa, and you were part of making that all happen. So thank you.
Yeah, well, look, it was great. We had a meeting, Justin and I, a couple of months ago. And it was a really sort of interesting idea, because mostly the people we interview on the channel are captains of industry. It's finance, it's high economics, it's doing business into Africa, which some companies, the big blue chip companies have attempted. Some of them have done it really well. Some of them have already burnt their fingers. But it's this constant Africa growth conversation, and then to kind of then bring in a very different kind of conversation piece. In terms of the speakers, also once again a wide range of speakers, and making that, packaging that and putting that onto the channel as content, sounded interesting, sounded exciting. We got the first season off the ground, and now it's a question of kind of how do you build it, how do you make it a commercially successful concept, and how do you grow it from there.
For those of you who haven't seen the series, if you go to the CNBC Africa website, CNBC Africa, and you just search their gurus, you can actually see the entire first series. And you will the format of the show is it's quite innovative, even if I say so myself. That you actually see the speaker on stage in front of an audience. In fact, we're going to be shooting this afternoon. How many of you are staying this afternoon? We're going to be shooting part of the second series this afternoon. So if you want to be part of that live TV audience, please hang out with us and you'll see it. But in the meantime, if you want to see all those interviews with absolutely phenomenal speakers, go into the CNBC Africa website and check it out. They're 15 minutes, and you can actually use them, play them to your teams, use them in because it's a lot of what you get here on the stage, but in these neat episodes. Now, of course, ABN is not just CNBC Africa and Forbes. You guys are one of the biggest really event production companies on the continent, and I know that we have some event companies in the room, and I don't think there's any competition here. You guys do something quite exceptional in terms of your links with CNBC Africa, and we're also looking at a partnership with USB there.
Correct, yeah. So essentially what we're seeing in the global media space, what's happening is that a lot of media companies have realized that distribution and what media used to be is now becoming, it's almost kind of fading away. Media has suddenly become almost commoditized in terms of social media, and globally, companies like the New York Times are going into the eventing space. They're taking a brand and a concept that they're comfortable with and taking it into the eventing space and almost creating an offline or a tangible experience in that particular field. So for us, like you say, it's a very non-competitive space because what we do is that we very much focus on business events, stakeholder breakfasts, it's conferences, but it's looking at African business and people who are interested in business in Africa. So for example, we do a breakfast at the World Economic Forum for the last 7 years with Brand South Africa, where we host a breakfast for global and international investors and CEOs who are interested in the South Africa story, who attend, and then obviously, it kind of then flows from there. And then we obviously have an office in East and West Africa as well, where we then do the same kind of thing, but in the continent. On that scale. So that's really kind of where the business has grown. So we mostly do all our events under the Forbes or the CNBC Africa brand. We often have partners coming to us and saying, well, you know what, you know the people, you know the terrain. Because Africa, quite frankly, in terms of the South African space, is still quite a bit of a scary place to go to. And undoubtedly so. I mean, I don't know if anyone's here been to Lagos or Kigali or Nairobi or any of these places, but I know Africa gets thrown around as a buzzword, but to actually have gone there, to have kind of seen it on the ground, and to see what it is and what it isn't is fascinating.
I always love this idea when we talk about Africa as if it's this other planet. Africa, when we go to Africa, and of course, I mean, I did a lot of work with Standard Bank, but they talk about rest of Africa, which is the whole kind of, I think we sometimes forget that we're part of this continent. But of course, doing business across the continent is different. And I think really, this is just probably a bit of a long shot, but we want to put it out there and say, part of Gurus is we are looking for a partner on Gurus. We're looking for a partner on Guru-type events through Africa. And so any organization that has a footprint in Africa, that wants to penetrate Africa, and really, I think, be associated with thought leadership on the continent, because that's what Gurus is about. It's thought leadership, and have that association, both in terms of the television show itself, which is content which can be repurposed. As you say, it's way beyond the specifics of the channel, but then also potentially have these events through the continent. You guys have got that footprint and can make that happen.
Correct, yeah. I mean, we've just taken over some space in the Kigali Convention Center, which sounds very exotic. I mean, it's a $600 million convention center that they've built in Rwanda. And Rwanda 20 years ago was, sort of a very sad story in general. If you go to Rwanda these days, it's got Wi-Fi on buses, the cleanest city you've ever been to in Kigali. They have no crime. You can apply for a business in 3 hours. You can get your tax clearance certificate, your business registration. They've got an airline that is expanding. And, to take a concept where you can say, let's take 10 of the most thought-leading speakers in each of their respective fields, put a one-day conference together, take it into East Africa, take it into West Africa, and kind of take that information into these sections of Africa, and then also the other way around, because there's also some very interesting people on the ground there. It makes for a very interesting property, and kind of connects the three different, strong economies in a very different way. So
great. So I think this is, the call to action is if there's anybody who wants to connect with these kinds of Pan-African speaker events or with Gurus, and if you'd like more information about that, please speak to Alex or speak to anyone from USB, and we can give you a little bit more of that information and see how we could partner up on bringing thought leadership and your brand with thought leadership across the continent, both on the TV screens and live in action.
Super.
Alex Leibner, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cheers.